And welcome back, All Sports Western New York. Vic Carucci in studio from the Buffalo News. And Vic, for the sake of clarity and for honesty, we're taping this show on Monday because as you watch this show Tuesday evening, you're already in Indianapolis for the scouting combine.
Yeah, and thank you for accommodating that. But this is always really a great event, one of the highlights of my NFL calendar, and it's become such a big thing. I mean, I can think back to the 1980s, Bob, when I'd show up with maybe 6 other guys at this event. No one really knew how fertile a ground it was for NFL information. And then people started to discover that. NFL Network covers it, and now you have like over 1,000 credentialed reporters there.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, it's the type of thing that the Senior Bowl is still important,
right,
but not everybody plays in it, not everybody goes to it. This is the place to go if you want to talk to those potential first-round picks.
Yes, for sure. The Senior Bowl definitely is limited, first of all, to seniors. So the juniors who declare, and you get so many of those guys out there, and generally they're the most talented players in the draft, the underclassmen. So that's one thing. And the other thing is how many people do show up from NFL teams. The Senior Bowl gets a decent representation, but not all the coaching staffs are there. The personnel staffs, of course, show up, scouts. But that's somewhat of a job fair for out-of-work NFL people. You get to Indianapolis, and it's really a who's who. It's everybody who's everybody from teams gathering to check out these players. And also agents show up of veteran players to see and kick in the tires, see what kind of interest level is in their guys, because free agency starts March 10th.
How much do you think these players today, Vic, train for strictly the combine?
Oh, all of them. I mean, if you're on that list of 300 plus, I think it's close to 350, who get invited to Indianapolis, and it's an invitation-only event. So if you're invited, your agent then makes an investment in you before your investment, hopefully you as an investment, pays off for him or her, as the case may be. And that is to train the player over the course of a couple of months leading up to the combine. And it's, Bob, the average cost, I've checked with agents, about 25 grand if you're going to have a client and you're talking about putting them in at a gym, working with personal trainer or trainers, working on all the various drills. It's very drill specific to what you do at the combine, running the 40, the bench press, all the cone drills and the vertical jump, all that. You train for those so that you're going to put up the best numbers possible, because invariably, even though our great late friend Larry Felser used to call it the underwear Olympics, because guys are wearing T-shirts and shorts and not doing any football stuff, even though it's that kind of thing, if you excel at that, your draft stock goes up, therefore your money goes up.
Yeah, I mean, there have been players who have been maybe considered also-ran who suddenly show up at the combine and run a faster 40 than anticipated, or do a lot of squats or whatever.
Yeah.
Suddenly their stock can rise through the roof.
You call those guys the workout warriors, and Western New York has one of the all-time cautionary tales. Mike Mamula from Lackawanna, who ended up being drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, and really his stock coming out of Boston College wasn't nearly as high before the combine as it was when he blew it away at the combine. And the Eagles make a big investment in him, and really he didn't have the career to show for it, unfortunately for Mike. But it became the cautionary tale, is that every time scouts and GMs, you talk to the Bill Polians and others, when they gather there, they say, hey, let's be careful here and not have, is this guy for real, or is he another Mike Mamula?
Last year, Khalil Mack from UB, who had a great rookie season in Oakland, he didn't have the fastest time that he had anticipated at the combine. Had another workout back here. But you've got to be a special guy to get that many scouts to follow you back to your hometown and see how you do.
For sure. And that's the thing. He did it on the field in a big way. He did it against the biggest competition UB had. This guy, in my opinion, almost solidified his 5th overall selection by the Raiders with that game against Ohio State in the opener. I mean, by just doing what he did, that tape became such a widely circulated example of what this guy could do, and the buzz about him just only got stronger in the course of the season.
Okay, so you've been doing a series of articles about the areas of the Bills and how they performed last year. Where do you think they're looking with the number 50 pick? Yeah,
well, and that's the thing. It's the number 50 pick, so it's sort of, you got to target somebody whose stock is not it doesn't have that first round grade, or you hope has the higher grade than where you're going to draft him, and that you're getting a bargain, a value there. And that can happen too. You really got to do your homework. I mean, this is what Doug Whaley, the GM for the Bills, the scouts live for. They live for this type of pick because it's lower than, again, the obvious that you and I can look at go online, look at any draft ratings and figure out who the first rounders are going to be. But this is where the challenge comes in when you get into second and below. And I think for the position, the obvious need in my mind has got to be offensive guard. And even though they addressed it with Richie Incognito, we'll see what they do in free agency because I think they could go into that with Mike Iupati from San Francisco, the tie he has with Greg Roman, the former Niners offensive coordinator, now running the Bills offense. And I think there are some players at that position. And otherwise, I think it's just who you might lose via free agency. You got to keep an eye on Jerry Hughes, but he's a defensive end, so will Rex want to go after some sort of an outside linebacker guy, a true outside linebacker? Because Mario Williams would also be converted from defensive end as well. And the other, Nigel Bradham, the other players they have on this team are not, pure, maybe great fits as outside linebackers in that type of scheme.
How different do you think the pick's going to be with Rex Ryan now as a coach as, say, Doug Marrone?
Well, starting with the very basic difference that Ryan is the defensive minded guy and Marrone's background is in offense. I think it'll start there. And I think he's going to, and given the splash of his hiring and such, I think Doug Whaley has said this repeatedly for the record, and I believe him when he says it. He wants to accommodate what this coach feels the fit is and what the staff needs. You're not trying to, you can't have a situation where the GM insists on this kind of player if this is what you do something else as a coaching staff. So I think it's getting to know, and they have been working at that to understand each other. Ryan speaks very highly of Whaley, so I think there's a trust factor, Bob, that he would adhere to what it is he wants done. And I think, again, it wouldn't surprise me given his defensive roots, and usually the first-year coach, it always happens in the league, they get their guy at their position on their side of the ball.
For whatever reason, the Whaley-Marrone relationship went sideways. It seems that, I would guess that Doug Whaley is going to make damn sure, of course he was involved with hiring Rex Ryan, that they're going to be completely on the same page come draft day.
I would think that there's no question about that, and I think every effort's being made. But if you ask Doug Whaley, I think he felt he was on the same page with Doug Marrone. That has mostly come from Marrone or the Marrone camp. Doug has consistently said to me and others that he didn't feel the problems that were reported on or talked about by a lot of us. With regard to Ryan, yeah, I think he's working at that, and he's also doing something very important for his big picture career, and that is proving himself to new ownership, to the Pagulas. It's his chance to prove that, they inherited him, so it's his chance to prove that they need to retain him and keep it going longer than this year, and he's got a great opportunity to do that.
Now we're looking at the Pagulas.
Yeah.
The Pagulas met with Richie Incognito, and by reports, they met with Rex Ryan, and Doug Whaley was in the meeting. Right. But Russ Brandon was not in that meeting?
He was not, and his role has definitely changed. He is very much on the business side of the operation. When he's involved in a football conversation, it's about budget, contract, how that all sort of fits. But when it comes to evaluating the talent, which he was involved in before, it is no longer the case with him. Whaley's voice is going to be the loudest with regard to the personnel side, in concert with what Rex Ryan wants, and then Terry and Kim Pagula kind of have the overall sign-off.
Okay, Vic, sit tight.
Okay.
We're going to take a break. At the end of the show, we've got punch keys. So,
nice.
But you're a lean, mean fight machine now. I don't know how many punch keys.
Are they low-cal punch keys?
Well, there is no such thing, but they're delicious. They're delicious. You can always cut a little quarter and bring the other, to the rest of the family.
That might happen.
The rest of the Carucci family. Maybe they put sauce on it. I'm not sure what happens there. Hey, we'll take a break. We'll be back with Vic Carucci.
Sauce on punch keys. I love it.
Right after this.